Hi friends, it's Tag Tuesday. No, it's Tuesday, which means it's time for a tag, right? How does that go? Yeah. The tag I want to do today is called Let Me Introduce You, and this, I think it was created by Melinda, and I was also tagged by Melinda at a web of stories. I'll link her channel below. And this is basically introducing you to an author that I really love and that you might not be familiar with. Okay, so the first question is, which author are you introducing? Tell us something about their life and how you came to meet them. Why did you want to introduce them? So today I'm going to talk about Claire Fuller. These are the 4 books that I have on my shelves from Claire Fuller that we'll talk about. Claire Fuller is a British author who has a very fun Instagram and a very cute cat. And she is married to a librarian. So they give book recommendations from both of them. Claire studied sculpture, I think, and then became a writer. And she started writing after she turned 40. As y'all know, I'm in my 40s, and I really love hearing people be successful after 40 because honestly, there are times that I feel like society forgets that we all get older and can be successful after a certain age. So props to Claire Fuller for that. The first I was introduced to Claire Fuller was, and if you've been around, you won't be too shocked at this, but it was actually a cover by. Look at the cover. So I remember where I was. This was after so my mom first got sick in 2017 was when I became her caregiver. And I remember I was at, I want to say, a Barnes & Noble, and this was on the new releases. This was released in 2021, I think it was. Yeah. And what kind of jumped out at me was the synopses of this. So it's about 2 siblings that their mother dies, and they've basically been isolated. Their mother kind of isolated them from the outside world, and you kind of go through, as you go through the story, you kind of find out why. And also, they were very self-sufficient and didn't really need the outside world for much. So when she dies, they don't really know how to interact with the outside world, what to do, where to go. And they take 2 different approaches to it. So yeah, I just went right into the synopsis. But the fact of their mother passing away and them having to figure out how to move on with their lives after that, when the mother has been such a strong figure in their lives, it was very relatable. And I feel like, if the memory is working well, I was interested in this, but I walked away from it, and then I came back to get it. And I really enjoyed it. This one is definitely due a reread. I'm very curious how my reading of it would change, or if it would. I gave this a 4-star, and this was also, interestingly enough, now that I follow the Women's Prize, I did not know this at the time that I bought this, but this was shortlisted for the Women's Prize in 2021. Go figure. All right. Why am I introducing them to you? I don't really feel like a lot of people talk about Claire Fuller. I've been watching booktube for 4 years since the pandemic, and I kind of follow a variety of booktubers, and it's not always necessarily because we read the same genre. I kind of go for vibe and personality when I follow someone, and so I haven't really heard too much about Claire Fuller. And this goes into the second question, which is what types of books do they write, kind of the genre and authors you would compare them to. And I would say that Claire Fuller writes literary fiction, contemporary fiction. And so I think a lot of the booktubers that I watch now don't tend more towards literary fiction, although that's not always true. But yeah, I just haven't heard as much about Claire Fuller in the reading spheres that I am in. So like I said, I would call her literary fiction, contemporary fiction. There's usually a strong female character, but not always. There's a strong female character. I would probably compare her to Maggie O'Farrell's contemporary works, not the historical fiction, but her contemporary works, such as I never remember the full name. The Esme Lennox book and Instructions for a Heat Wave are the ones that I've read by Maggie Fuller. I've got a couple over here that I still need to read. But yeah, I feel like their vibe is sort of the same or similar. I also, just writing style, I would compare Claire Fuller to like an Emily St. John Mandel, who was another one I thought about talking about. But I feel like more people are familiar with Emily St. John Mandel, but not as dystopian. Claire Fuller was not, that I know of, the ones that I've read, dystopian until she came out with this one, The Memory of Animals. This came out in 2023, but she wrote it before 2020 because in the publishing world, usually a book is finished several years before we get it. And it's about a woman who is kind of down on her luck and needs money fast. And so she signs up for a vaccine trial. And it's in a controlled environment where she has to live in this apartment complex for the duration of the trial. Basically, a pandemic breaks out and kind of go from there. And this was the second book I read, The Memory of Animals, and probably one of the first books that I've ever pre-ordered. I still don't pre-order a lot of books because I do like paperback better. But yeah, I pre-ordered this book and it's one of my favorite books. I want to reread this one too. There's typically a strange element. There was definitely a strange element in Unsettled Ground. There's kind of a, and when I say strange, I just mean otherworldly, or I wouldn't call it magical realism. It's just kind of one of those out there kind of thoughts. Yeah, I guess that's how I would say it. The Memory of Animals definitely has some magical realism to it, but it's not something that all of Claire Fuller's works have. With that said, going into the third question is, where should you start with Claire Fuller? So Claire Fuller has 5 published works. Her first one, I'm going to put a picture of it here because I don't have it yet, is, I forgot to write down, look at me, so prepared. Forgot to write it down, but it's only Our Numbered Days, I think is what it's called. So it's called Our Endless Numbered Days. I have not found that one yet in hardback, and I want that one in hardback because I now have all of her works in hardback. Bitter Orange is a book I read in August, and this was her 3rd book, and so we're kind of working. We'll talk publication order in a minute. Bitter Orange is about a woman who we meet at the end of her life, and she kind of goes back to a certain time in her life when, just after her mother died, she had to take a job. She didn't have a lot of resources, so she took a job from an American who bought kind of a derelict English castle mansion sort of place. And our main character, Frances, is known for knowing a lot of things about kind of botany and surveying gardens, and so this man hires her to come and survey the land around the house. And then when Frances gets there, she lives in an attic apartment, and there's a couple there when she gets there who, the man in the couple has been hired to kind of catalog everything that's in the house. And the 3 kind of end up having a friendship, weird relationship kind of thing, but kind of goes back and forth between Frances at the end of her life and at this time when she was living at this mansion. So you can, as far as where should you start, I really think that you can start anywhere with Claire Fuller. I started with, at the time, her most recent, and then I went to her next release, which was Memory of Animals. Then I went backwards, and I went to this one because it met a prompt for Deck of TBR-a-thon that I was doing in August. So that came next. And then I have Swimming Lessons, which is another of her earlier works. This was her 2nd novel. I have a Book of the Month edition because I bought a used copy off Pango. I did not get this from Book of the Month, but it was a Book of the Month in December of 2016. A wife who writes letters to her husband and then goes missing. This is probably going to be my next read. And then the first one is our endless number of days that you could also start at the beginning if you wanted to kind of see her evolution of being a writer. So those are my copies of Claire Fuller. The top 3, I've looked back at my Goodreads and I gave 4 stars to each of them, but they've stayed with me, so if I read them now they could potentially be a 5-star. So yeah, that's Claire Fuller. And let me know in the comments, have you read any of her work and what do you think of it? Do you have a recommendation on where someone should start with her? Let's chat in the comments. If you would like to support my channel, you can hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.